And tonight on the Daily Wrap, a report now says the Department of Justice says Hillary Clinton broke no law when she used her private email account. So, is the scandal over? Some of the Democratic Party are now calling for John Kerry to join the race. Will he? And Donald Trump has two new enemies, Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina. We'll tell you what the hell happened. Tonight, this is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the show. I'm Joe Contra, joined by my co-host Rick Unger. we've been talking Hillary for weeks, months it feels like, and now she's in the clear. Time to start measuring the drapes, Unger.
I don't know if she is. You know, it's fascinating what the Justice Department said. I'm really pleased that Alan Dershowitz is joining us today. I have so many legal questions as to what this ultimately means. I can't wait to ask him these questions.
F. Lee Unger and Dershowitz coming up soon. To F. Lee's right, she's an anchor for the Blaze TV and the next host of the MTV Music Awards. She is Amy Holmes.
I like wearing clothes.
Sometimes. And finally, he's a speaker, author, patriot, and former Navy SEAL, Carl Higbie, and his 2% body fat. He's back. Okay, everybody, let's get right to the Daily Download.
I turned over everything I was obligated to turn over, and then I moved on. People delete their personal emails, their work-related emails, whatever emails they have, on a regular basis. I turned over everything that I could imagine. Now, all I can tell you is that the law, the regulation, did not in any way stand in my way of being permitted to do what I did.
Well, it looks like the Department of Justice agrees with Mrs. Clinton. According to the Washington Times, lawyers with the DOJ told a federal court that the former Secretary of State broke no laws using her own private email account and how she handled state emails. Furthermore, the DOJ says Clinton no longer is obligated to hand over any more emails to investigators. But according to Judicial Watch, the State Department is breaking its own rules on how Clinton's emails were handled. According to State Department procedure, quote, personal records of a department presidential appointee may not be removed from the government until the State Department records officer, in cooperation with the SES or appropriate administrative office, approves of the removal, a process which generally requires a hands-on examination of the materials. Is Clinton now completely off the hook? To get the answer to that question, let's bring in Newsmax TV contributor, famed attorney and Harvard law professor, Alan Dershowitz. By the way, be sure to get Alan's amazing new book. It really is great. I'm about 75% through it, but it's already made the case for me. The case against the deal with Iran, how we could stop Iran from getting nukes. Professor, welcome back. So is Mrs. Clinton free and clear at this point, at least from a legal perspective?
Well, I hate to say I told you so, but I've been all over the media saying that we have to distinguish between judgment on the one hand, politics, and legality. And legally, she was always in the clear. The law requires that you have to know that what you're doing is illegal. There has to have been classification notifications. And she was right when she said that there was nothing illegal about what she did at the time she did it, and nothing that she had on her email was marked classified. That doesn't mean it was good judgment. She's now acknowledged that she wished she hadn't done it. But I think the case is over as a legal case for all intent and purposes. Some of the media was saying that she was a target of the Justice Department, and they were saying over and over again, no, she is not a target. But a lot of the media wouldn't listen to that, and they were repeating the term target. And that's just not right. She was never the target of the investigation. What she did was entirely legal. Now the public has the right to judge her on whether what she did was right or wrong, as a matter of judgment, whether she's done enough to apologize. That's a fair point politically.
Hey, Alan, Rick Unger, here's my question for you. If somebody avoids government email completely, as we think for the most part Hillary Clinton did by using her private email account, those emails, government-related emails that are on her private server, were supposed to have been on the government server. Doesn't it strike you as odd that the law would require that the emails on the government server had to be looked at before erased, and yet when she supplants that server with an incorrect one, the personal server, suddenly they don't have to be looked at?
Well, I think the law should clearly change, and I think the law should now require, and that's, I think, why the FBI is looking into this, because this did pose a problem. I think the law should now be very clear for the future that government officials in sensitive positions Secretary of State must use that are preserved and go through the normal process and go through the process also of being checked for classified material.
So basically,
object lesson.
She'll be off the hook on a technicality because that law did not exist at the time
Well, you
it took
say
place.
technicality. She's off the hook
Right.
from the law. The law is not a technicality any more than the Constitution is a technicality. You can't be criminally prosecuted for doing something that was not unlawful at the time. But we can learn from experience and change the law, and I think we ought to do that.
Okay, understood.
Professor Dershowitz, Amy Holmes here. This actually sort of reminds me of Al Gore dialing for dollars from the vice president's office and saying there was no controlling legal authority. My question to you is, I'm confused. Why is the FBI counterintelligence investigating these emails, hiring 50 staffers to go through these emails? Plus, we have a server that's been erased that the forensic experts are still trying to reconstruct. How can they already have made the determination that she didn't break the law when the investigation is ongoing?
No, it's clear that she didn't break the law because nobody has alleged, and there's not been any evidence that has been found or suggested that there was anything marked classified that she knew was classified.
But we don't know because we haven't recovered all of those emails that she erased when she wiped the server.
Well, and if they do find anything that was marked classified, she has to have known it was marked classified. But you don't investigate people based on surmise. You investigate people based on facts, and the facts at this point in time provide no basis for an investigation. I think the investigation is designed to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future and to make sure that no material that should have been classified, but that wasn't, has been in any way compromised. That's a fair point to investigate, and it's also a fair point to say,
Alan, we can't let you go without asking you what you have to say about today's vote in the Senate, making it clear that there will be no resolution of condemnation of the Iran nuclear deal, and that there'll be no veto necessary because there'll be nothing to veto.
Well, I think it's an outrage. I think it's an outrage to democracy that this most important foreign policy initiative of the 20th century gets treated the way Southern bigots treated civil rights legislation, by preventing any vote or any discussion. There's nothing more undemocratic than the filibuster. And for the Democrats, the liberals, to use the filibuster to stop any discussion is the second most outrageous thing that happened today. The most outrageous thing that happened today is the New York Times bigoted chart where they list the votes against the deal by the religious background of the voters. My God, you might expect that from some kind of a bigoted newspaper. But for the newspaper of record, the New York Times, to be putting stars of David essentially next to the voting patterns of people in Congress, and essentially making the accusation through the chart that people of Jewish background who voted against the deal must have done it because they have an allegiance, a dual allegiance to Israel, without mentioning that the vast majority of Americans are opposed to this deal. In fact, a higher percentage of Jews favor the deal than non-Jews, according to polls. According to the recent Pew poll, only 21% of Americans support this deal. How dare the New York Times identify by religious affiliation voters against the deal? They would never do that on racial grounds. They would never do it on gender grounds. They would never identify Muslims who voted for or against the bill. This is the most bigoted thing I have ever seen the New York Times do, and it's an outrage, and there will be hell to pay for this. There will be a lot of criticism about what the New York Times did today.
Yeah, Professor Dershowitz was certainly a black eye for the Gray Lady, no question about that. And I have a feeling that the public editor will be writing about this for that paper probably tomorrow, if not over the weekend, because you're not the only one, including myself, that has expressed outrage over this. So we appreciate you bringing that up, and we appreciate you joining the show tonight. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. So, guys, final word.
You know, I disagree with Alan Dershowitz on the deal itself, but he couldn't be more correct about what he had to say about what the New York Times did. I was absolutely shocked that that happened.
That's the only way to put it. Yeah. Shocked, indeed. So, do you think Hillary Clinton is now officially off the hook? I have a feeling these comments will be colorful. Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments and let us know. We might even read a couple on the air later. Coming up next, are Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton tied for the nomination now for the Democratic Party? My goodness, stay tuned.